All right, and we are back on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we're going to now get into talking about the Thursday night game, the first game that kicked off Week 8, and talk about the Rams and the Vikings, the Rams picking up the win. And I did say that the Vikings were going to win, but, you had Cooper Kupp coming back. But all of a sudden, you get reports that Puka Nacua might play in this game. And he ended up playing in this game, and he was awesome. He was awesome in this game. And once, with my spread pool, once Puka Nacua was active, I'm like, I got to take the Rams with the points. I still thought that the Vikings would probably win, but I was like, got to take the Rams. And you see how different this team is with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp back in the lineup. I mean, the Rams looked like a completely different team. Matthew Stafford had only 3 touchdown passes the whole year. The whole year. In this game, he had 4. He had 4. 2 to Demarcus Robinson, 1 to Cooper Kupp, and 1 to Kyren Williams. They looked like a different team. Now, I still don't really trust the defense, although it did get big stops when it had to. So, you got to be encouraged by that. But I think also, now you got an offense that's completely different than what they've been dealing with for a while now, this year. Because now you got an offense that can sustain drives, that can score points with anybody. They could put up points with anybody if they got their top 2 guys back. And maybe you get Tyler Higbee back at some point, the tight end, and then all of a sudden, this offense is at full strength. I mean, it's close to that right now. Basically is, how you view Tyler Higbee, but Tyler Higbee's a good tight end. And getting him back, that makes the offense better. But it's just, Matthew Stafford looked unbelievable in this game. I mean, he did have, the one blemish was the interception he threw, and there was a miscommunication there with Demarcus Robinson. But Matthew Stafford looked good. And the Rams, all of a sudden, they get themselves back in the conversation when it comes to the playoffs. I had this team as one of my wild card teams, and that is still on the table. And it was interesting because before this game, you're hearing all these reports like, Matthew Stafford maybe could be traded, Cooper Kupp, the Chiefs are trying to get him. And Sean McVay, kind of shut some things down, said some of the reporting is not true. He did say that teams did reach out, but some of the reports that were coming out just weren't true. But he did say, he's happy that Cooper Kupp is back. And with this win, though, I mean, this changes things. This game was huge because had the Rams lost, maybe they do end up trading Cooper Kupp. But they ended up winning. They get to 3-4, and, watch out for them in the second half. I think they're going to go on a run. They do have some tough games looking at their schedule, but, I think with getting Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua back, it's a different team. And, I like for them to go on a run here. And then for the Vikings, I mean, look, what's funny is there's this stat that every team so far this year that has played the Lions has gone on to lose the following week. And that still remained true after this game because the Vikings, they came off of their first loss to the Lions, which was a very exciting game. And then they ended up losing to the Rams on a short week. But looking at how this game started, this game was a very good Thursday night game. Now, there was one play that ended up ruining it, and we'll get into that in a second. But both teams exchanged touchdowns on their first 2 drives. The Vikings went 8 plays, 70 yards down the field. Sam Darnold connected with Oliver, the tight end, for a 5-yard touchdown. Then the Rams, they responded with a 4-minute drive, 21-yard pass play to Puka Nacua, and then later in the drive from the Vikings 5, Matthew Stafford connected with Kyren Williams, who's been solid this year. So that made 7-7. Then the Vikings went down the field. Some nice catches by Justin Jefferson in this game. And on this drive, he had a 19-yard reception. And then Trent Sherfield from 10 yards out scores a touchdown. So that was Darnold's second touchdown pass. So that made it 14-7. Rams then answered with a touchdown drive. That drive lasted almost 6 minutes. And Matthew Stafford looked like he was going to get sacked. He was able to avoid it, get out of it. And he was able to find Cooper Kupp for a 7-yard touchdown. So that made it 14-14. Then we had a lot of punts in the second quarter. Only punts in the second quarter. And that was how the game was going into the half, tied. Rams opened up the second half. Stafford ended up throwing a pick. Some miscommunication with Demarcus Robinson. So yeah, that made it. That gave the Vikings good field position, and that led to actually not really, it didn't really give them good field position, but Vikings ended up turning that into a field goal, 23-yard field goal. So yeah, Vikings were up by 3. Then the Rams, they ended up scoring a touchdown, a 8-play 70-yard drive. Stafford connected with DeMarcus Robinson from 25 yards out. So yeah, that made it 21-17. Vikings ended up kicking a field goal, and then Rams put together another touchdown drive. Stafford connected with DeMarcus Robinson for a 10-yard touchdown. So that put them up by 8. Vikings ended up punting. Rams punted. And then, the Vikings, they had to go the length of the field to try to tie this game and, go for 2. They had to get a touchdown and then go for 2. But they ended up getting a penalty. There's an illegal formation. And then Darnold ended up getting sacked, and that ended up being a safety. But there was a blatant face mask call that was missed that should have been called, and who knows what would have happened. But I know people are saying, like, the Rams got bailed out by the refs. And, I mean, look, that was a missed call. But the Vikings had no timeouts left, and they had to go the length of the field. And then if they get a touchdown, they'd have to go for the 2-point conversion. So, did you really think that was going to happen? I mean, maybe it does. Maybe it does. But it's not like they were down by 3. They had timeouts remaining. Like, I don't think the Vikings would have went the length of the field. I just don't. So, yeah, the refs missed that call, but, I mean, I don't think the Vikings are going the length of the field there. I'm sorry, I just don't. I don't think they're going 95 yards and scoring a touchdown and getting a 2-point conversion there. But I guess we'll never know. But that kind of put a blemish on this game. It did. But it was a very entertaining Thursday night game. And, now the Vikings, they dropped 2 straight. And, the Packers won again. The Lions won again. So now all of a sudden, the Vikings, they literally went from being in first place this whole time to now all of a sudden they're in third place. So, but they're still in a playoff spot. They're still a very good team. But, now they got to get themselves back on the right track. But looking at the stats from the game, Sam Darnold went 18 of 25, 240 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Got off to a great start, but then kind of cooled off after that. Aaron Jones had 58 yards on the ground. The Viking, and then Darnold had 6 yards rushing. They only had 64 yards on the ground in total. Justin Jefferson, some great catches in this game. Like I said, 8 receptions for 115 yards. Aaron Jones had 2 for 37. The tight end Josh Oliver had 2 for 30 for a touchdown, and a touchdown. Jordan Addison only 2 receptions for 22 yards. Vikings defense actually had no sacks in this game. So, again, they get their weapons back. The protection was good for Stafford. Once you get, and they're still missing guys on the offensive line. You get those guys back. I mean, again, that just makes the Rams offense even better, giving Stafford better protection. But again, didn't get sacked in this game. And Stafford, solid game for him. 25 of 34, 279 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a pick. Kyron Williams, 23 carries for 97 yards. Puka Nacua, 7 receptions for 106 yards. Cooper Kupp, 5 for 51 and a touchdown. Getting those 2 guys back is just huge. And Nacua looked good. And, now another week. And, they're going up against Seattle. Could have a good game there. It was great against them in week 1 last year. DeMarcus Robinson. See, when the top 2 guys went out, everyone thought, well, now DeMarcus Robinson's going to be the leading receiver. He's going to be having big games. And that's why he was a guy that many people picked up in fantasy, including me, at certain points. But now having the top 2 wideouts back, that makes DeMarcus Robinson better, because now everybody's attention is going to be on them. And now DeMarcus Robinson, who had he was good for them towards the end of last year. That's going to, open up more production for him at times. So, he had 2 touchdowns in this game. 3 sacks by the Rams defense as well. But, solid performance from them. They take on the Seahawks next week. Then they got the Dolphins at home. They got the Patriots, the Eagles at home, the Saints, the Bills, and the 49ers are going to be tough games from week 14 to week 15. Then you got the Jets. which is a road game. I mean, at this point, should be a win, but who knows? Cardinals and Seahawks to end the year. So, I mean, I like the Rams' chances to make a run here. You know, they got their weapons back. The offensive line hopefully gets healthy. Get Higbee back. They're going to make a run. I really do believe that. Like I said, I had this team going 10-7 and making the playoffs, and I'm going to stick by that. And look at last year. Last year, it was kind of a similar thing. You know, didn't get off to a great start, but they made a second-half run, and they made the playoffs. So I'm expecting the same thing here. So they got one of the best head coaches in the NFL in Sean McVay, and you still got one of the veterans in Matthew Stafford. And Joe Flacco is going to be possibly starting on Sunday night. So, you know, Flacco and Stafford, you know, when Flacco's played, he's looked good. Stafford looking to have a big second half. Russell Wilson has looked good. The only veteran that has not looked good from the old guard, the old generation, is Aaron Rodgers. Now, his numbers aren't bad, but, you know, the team looks like it's not going anywhere. But, yeah, I mean, Russell Wilson and the Steelers are 6-2. The Colts, I mean, right now they're 4-4, but if they're going to Flacco, maybe they can go on a run, be a wild card team, and then you got the Rams who are trying to go on a run and be a wild card team. So maybe if Aaron Rodgers and the Jets could somehow turn it around, they can get themselves back in the conversation. But I already told you guys earlier in the show it's probably not happening. So, but yeah, let me know what you guys think though about the Thursday night game. What were your takeaways from it? Let me know in the comments. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to check out all the other shows later in the day. Give them some love. You know, get people's opinions on the NBA, what's been going on so far in that, as well as the World Series, which Game 4 is tonight. Probably the last game that will be played in this 2024 campaign. Maybe not. Maybe the Yankees extend it. I hope, but not liking the chances of that happening. But yeah, get other people's opinions on other sports. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the show. And as always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.